Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Kieran. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon, IFI international friends and programmers. We're very pleased to have you all here with us this afternoon. It's very odd not to be hungover. It's very odd not to, well, Kieran, I mean, post-rowing club, I mean, the normal FLA experience. We're not in the Town Hall Theatre or the Houston School or the Druid or any of those wonderful places we've been in the past, but here we are now, and I'm very pleased that people have found time to gather. I guess the function annually of our getting together is partly the support we provide for each other and the opportunity to share experience of the last year and to look forward at what we might be planning for the forthcoming period. We've had an odd 6 months or so. I think it will be fascinating to learn how others have got through this period. I know there's a catalogue of cancellations and postponements and so on. I think it will be of value to us all to understand what others have been through and to inform ourselves so that we might be in a better position to confidently head into the next period and reimagine how we are going to deliver in the next 6 months or so. So we have a great lineup of people with us today. We have funders, we have facilitators, we have programmers, we have a film director, and for the first time ever, we have an actor. And it would be really interesting, I think, to get a sense of the holistic sense of what an Irish film festival is and who are the stakeholders on and so on. So I'm going to hand over to Kieran in a moment and then we'll invite our panelists to join us. We'll have a chat and then we'll open out to questions from you all. There are, as you know, on these webinars, there's a chat function and there's a Q&A function. I would encourage you to put your questions into the Q&A box rather than the chat box. The chat box you can chat among yourselves, but the Q&A is where we'll be paying attention to take your questions and to field them to the relevant people. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kieran Walsh from Culture Ireland to say a few words about Culture Ireland's position over the past period and leading into the next. Over to you, Kieran.
Thanks, Suniva. As you said, for those of us who were at the Druid last year for our session there, it's very strange 1 year on that here we are. But I just want to acknowledge, firstly, a couple of people. I want to acknowledge Will and Miriam from the FLA for giving us the support to do the event in the format that we're running it today. So we're very grateful to them. I want to acknowledge as well Suniva and Eleanor from IFI International, the work that they do with a lot of you guys on a year-round basis and the support that they provide. And it's, and I know, as Sunita said, over the last 6 months, it's been a process of change. I particularly want to acknowledge the many of you who run your own festivals. I know Susanna and Kelly are on the panel, but there are others of you with us today who have been through the last few months in terms of cancellations and postponements from the 12th of March. A lot of festivals were, a lot of Irish themed film festivals were around then, and that you've had to postpone and cancel, and there's uncertainty. And I just wanted to stress that at Culture Ireland, we are very happy to try and support you through that process of change. I know that some people had costs that they incurred when they cancelled, and they're now looking at deferring and maybe holding the event later in the year. And we will be as supportive as possible of those changes, because we know the valuable work that you do in promoting Irish film across the globe. Obviously for Culture Ireland, it's the same for you guys. It's a complete all change for us in terms of how we do our business. We're still trying to figure out our new modus operandi moving forward, but it will be a changed environment for us and how we support art forms in the future. I don't necessarily have any answers today, but we are very keen to talk to people about how they're working and how their work is changing, and to see how we can support that change. And without further ado, and I'm here for the session. And indeed, if anyone wants to ask me questions in the chat, please feel free to do so. Sunniva.
Thank you very much, Kieran, and thank you for that vote of support of our various activities, whatever they might become. So I'm going to hand over to Eleanor. Eleanor has prepared one of her wonderful PowerPoint presentations just to kind of zip back over the past period to see the extent of the impact of COVID. We'll have a quick look at what was planned, what was cancelled, and what might be coming down the track. So I'm going to hand over to Eleanor, who will speak over her PowerPoint. So Ray, if you could, Ray is facilitating all this, Ray Grady from the FLA. So if you could hand over and share the screen with the PowerPoint. Thanks, Ray.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eleanor Mullin, and as Sunniva mentioned there, I work in the Irish Film Programming Department and look after the IFI International Programme, along with my colleague, Dean Kavanagh, who looks after the technical side of things. Next slide. So the IFI International Programme is an Irish film programming service for cultural exhibitors worldwide, supported by Culture Ireland, with the aim of strategically developing a global audience for Irish film through cultural screenings. Essentially what we do is curate programs, we clear film rights, we handle transport logistics, we provide some screening formats, and also some modest financial support for screening fees and print transport. Culture Ireland provides support to exhibitors, for guests to travel to the festivals, for Q&As and for workshops. I can be contacted at the IFI on emelinn@irishfilm.ie. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot of our key partner festivals that we work with each year. Most of them would be Irish film festivals: Boston, Belgrade, Capital Irish, Chicago Irish, Russia, which is the largest of our festivals. Australia takes place in Sydney and Melbourne. London takes place later in the year, a great festival. Rome, which was one of the first to be hit, unfortunately, by the coronavirus this year, but a wonderful festival. The Irish Festival of Oulu in Finland, Ottawa Irish Film Festival, and our newest festival to join us was Vancouver, which would be in their third year this year, and of course Baton Rouge Irish Film Festival. Next. We also work with a wide variety of Irish embassies and consulates all around the world, and they would be asked to contribute to various different film festivals in their regions. So this would be a list of festivals that we would have been looking at collaborating with this year: the EU Film Festival in Hong Kong, China, an Ireland on Screen event, which was due to take place in Abu Dhabi and Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, and then traveling to Qatar. We pulled together an Irish focus for Mumbai International Film Festival back in January. Seems so long ago now. The Days of European Film Festival in the Czech Republic. We also contributed a number of films to an EU Film Festival in Kumasi and Accra in Ghana. We annually contribute to the Europe on Screen Festival in Jakarta, and also to the Panorama of European Film in Cairo, and also the Pride Festival in Sofia. We work with quite a lot of the Pride festivals mainly in Europe, I think, yeah. Next. So this would be a list of snapshot of the films that would have been popular this year. Extraordinary was set to sweep the board, proven to be one of the most popular films this year across the cultural circuit. A bump along the way, Aracht, Sea Fever, Dark Lies the Island. Then we had documentaries such as Gaza, Kumar, Galway Rhapsody, The Camino Voyage continuing its wonderful journey around the world, Shooting the Darkness, and the Seamus Heaney documentary, Seamus Heaney and the Music of What Happens. And then we'll also contribute short films, a wide range of these, animation, documentaries, Irish language, LGBTQ. We take the Gays on Tour package of shorts around the world every year, and also Women on Film too. Next. Each year, Culture Ireland will have a focus on a particular territory. This year, the focus was on Galway, as it's the City of Culture for 2020. Later in the year, we also have planned a silent film cine concert taking place in New York to screen the Coens and the Kellys, along with live musical accompaniment. We also show classic films such as Into the West, Commitments and Garage. We're proving popular this year. And we're also asked to contribute to themed events. For example, the EU Film Festival in Ghana had the theme of identity, activism, love and relationships and the environment. And we also sent the Camino Voyage off to Maryland Film Festival in New York for the theme To Be in Harmony. Next. So prior to coronavirus hitting, March is our busiest month of the year with a lot of events clustered around the St. Patrick's celebrations. And we usually start planning for this in October, November, the year before, and January and February being particularly busy months for us getting everything together for these festivals. We were due to have 162 international screenings of 111 Irish films at 23 global festivals and events in March 2020. Unfortunately, all the events post the 13th of March were cancelled, and all events in April and May. We had one event which went ahead in June, as the Czech Republic was the first territory to open up early. So most of our events have now been pushed back into Q4, but we're also seeing that with a resurgence of the virus, it's affecting rescheduling in some countries, for example, in Serbia. So hopefully these events will get to go ahead this year. If not, we'll be back with a bang in 2021. Next. So this would be our snapshot of 2019. These are our top 10 most screened Irish films around the world through the IFI International Programme. The Camino Voyage pretty much outscreened everything else. We did 44 international screenings of the film. And it's, as I say, still continuing its journey around the world. We had 135 events. It was a bumper year last year, up from, I think, 118 the previous year. So last year we had 634 screenings of 234 Irish films in 117 cities in 54 countries to an audience of 47,000 people all around the world. Next. And my name is Eleanor Lynn, and thank you very much for watching.
Eleanor, thank you very much indeed for that presentation, and certainly the figures at the end show the extraordinary amount of work that all of the programmers are doing, but especially Eleanor is doing. And I'd like to add my thanks to Kieran's an acknowledgement of the extraordinary work that Eleanor does annually to make all of our lives easier and to ensure that Irish film is getting out to the festivals. And of course our colleague Dean, who does all of the behind the scenes technical work in transmuting files into compatible formats. So thanks Eleanor for that. So I'm going to invite now our panelists on screen, just so we can get a look at you all. Ray, can you bring our panelists in? Hello, Susanna.
Hello, Susanna. Hello. Hello, everyone.
So here we all are. We have Susanna Palace from the Irish Film Festa Rome, a programmer who I'm sure many of you are familiar with and you've bumped into on many pleasurable occasions at the FLA. We have Donal O'Callagher, director of the Camino Voyage and of many other wonderful films, Dreamtime Revisited, Aisling Gow, many films that you will have screened over the years. And I'm very pleased that Donal is with us today. We have Kelly O'Connor from Irish Film London, and Kelly is, I was going to say, where are you at with your festival, Kelly? What year is this?
Our 10th anniversary this year.
10th anniversary this year. So she's a well-experienced programmer of Irish film abroad. Will Fitzgerald, who I don't know how many of you will have met, because Will is generally fiercely busy and doesn't have the time to engage with us all. He's busy hosting Q&As and so on. But Will, thank you very much for taking time out of the festival. Will is programmer of the Galway Film FLA, has been shorts programmer in the past, and has worked at many festivals internationally before this. And finally, we have Barry Ward. Barry, who you will have seen on a bigger screen than this. Barry's a very fine actor whose work in supporting the cultural exhibition of films is really notable, and I'm looking forward to hearing about his experience of screening, supporting films that will have been screened at your festivals. So I'm going to kick off just with a couple of questions for Susanna and Kelly. And really just to kind of get a sense of how your year has been. I know that Susanna and Kelly, you both cancelled your festivals. Kelly, you have made efforts to present work digitally since then. But Susanna, can I kick over to you first? I mean, working in Italy, you would have been one of the first territories that the virus hit and the emergency was most palpable there. So what was your experience back in March?
Of course, I had to postpone or to cancel the festival. And this was a very tough decision to make. I made it in February, actually, when Rome was already, was still safe, but the north of Italy was beginning to be affected by the virus. And when we had all films already confirmed, all the lineup was completed, the part of the flights for the guests were booked. So everything was almost arranged, even subtitles, Italian subtitles for the films were ready. But I felt that it was too much risk to go on with the festival. And in fact, on 11th of March, Italy was locked down, followed by the rest of Europe. So I feel like I'm freezed now, very frustrated and very, very sad. I booked new dates for October, the end of October, but we don't know what the situation will be in autumn as well. Luckily, all the flights almost all the flights have been reimbursed. The venue and the hotel haven't charged us for the cancellation. I don't know about fees already paid. But I know that, for example, we have an artwork ready for this edition, the 13th edition, which is a celebration, which was a celebration of Galway 2020, and we are not going to use it if we move to 2021, of course. And also the short film competition was ready. We had accepted submissions, made the selection, put the jury in place. But now, what's next? I have a couple of options that are October, as I was saying, or to move to 2021, or what I was thinking during the lockdown was to, for example, to have just one day in October to screen maybe one feature and all the shorts in competition. Because the venue we used, the Casa del Cinema, which is an art house cinema, small but very well organized, very intimate, is now with social distancing reduced in seats, because we have 140 seats at in the main screening room. And I think in this situation, the festival will change a lot. We don't have the same atmosphere. The people can't socialize with Irish talents. We have always a lot of Irish talents coming to Rome. They're very happy to travel to Italy and to attend the festival. And I think their presence is what makes this festival so praised and so popular. So just one day maybe, because for us to move online is not actually an option. It's not just because it could be very expensive. Maybe Will can tell us about this later on a bit better, but also because the audience we have is not the kind of audience, they're not all young and all smart. I don't expect them to follow us online. So at the moment, I don't know what the scenario will be, but these are the options I'm thinking of.
I expect there's an interest in just taking your existing program and presenting it later in the year. I mean, if you've invested in subtitling and so on, you were that close to it being completed that it would seem unnecessary to refresh that or to add new titles or whatever. Is that so? Or
yes, that's why I hope to be able to organize the festival in October, because also by watching the film I'm watching during the FLA, I feel that we need to add something to change the program, because months and we have been, time is flowing, you know. So really, I really hope we will be able not to skip this year and to use the program, which was a good program, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting to hear that you're keen to keep it in theatre. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, so Kelly, your experience was that equivalent, or what happened with you? What happened in London?
So very similar to Susanna, we had to pull the festival, the physical festival. We watched Susanna pull hers, and I thought, okay, I think we're going down the same track, but of course we had to wait for announcements from the government and health announcements and things before we could do that. And there was very much the hope that we'd be able to do it in person, because that is, as Susanna says, that is the heart of the festival, is the in-person stuff. So we were holding it as long as possible, but we ended up calling it the night before, which obviously has a big impact on us. The venue was very good, I have to say. Financially it was not as bad as we thought it might be, but it's still a hit. We had to refund all the tickets. Travel had to be cancelled, which we've got some refunds for, but because it was so close, for the most part, we didn't get refunds. And again, we had an amazing program lined up. We had UK premieres. We were going to do Calm with Horses, and we had the guys coming. We were going to do Lenny Abrams, and we had Normal People preview booked in as well. So it was really exciting. We loads of shorts and everything. So for us, we did decide to go online. Sort of the festival spirit, I think, the adrenaline had already kicked in, so we just wanted to keep going. So we did go online. We managed to find a way to secure that. Obviously, we weren't able to do premieres online, certainly within a few days. That's not it's not the same rights. So we weren't able to do the feature films that we had hoped, but we were able to do shorts, to do Q&As, and to do panel discussions, things like that, which were really well received. I have to say, I think it was 2 days after the festival was due to start, we managed to kick that off, and because of the way St. Patrick's Day fell this year, it was on a Tuesday, so we ended up, or maybe even the Wednesday, we ended up kind of being able to expand what we were doing online. So we had, really, really great interactions, but again, there's definitely a significant portion of our in-person audience that would be in an elder bracket. We didn't necessarily see that translate to an online audience. What we did get was a lot more international engagement, which was great. Being able to see people from all over the world diving in and seeing Irish film was just fantastic. So it did go very well, and out of the back of that, then we expanded that. We kind of kept it running. There was a lot of the filmmakers who either weren't able to clear the rights directly in time for us to show them during the festival, the official festival period, who were still really interested, and came to us afterwards and said, we'd really like to, we would have loved to have been a part of that. And we had the audience saying, this is the kind of thing that would be very useful in the pandemic kind of spirit, where particularly at that time everybody was in heightened panic mode. So we thought, let's try and give people a bit of an escape. So we kept it running, and we started something called Irish Film from Home, which is its own platform. It's hosted through our website, and through that we've since been able to continue to provide content, which now includes some feature films. We've been able to do quite a lot of Q&As with people that we may not have been able to get to the festival before, which, there's been a huge benefit for that. And we've been able to, while we weren't able to put, say, Dating Amber on our platform, we knew it was coming up on Amazon, so we got in touch, we interviewed the director, and then we were able to embed those things onto our website. So, it became more of a portal for promoting Irish film and highlighting what people can actually see online. But it doesn't replace an in-person festival. And for us, we're very much about cinema, about seeing it on the big screen, and about getting people together in a theatre. The social part of our festival is, I think that's really where the kind of heart of it is. It's, the audience meeting directors and actors, and screenwriters and producers in the bar afterwards. You know, we do sort of, you know, there are certain sort of industry connections that we would be making in a soft way after those kind of events, as well as with the audience directly. So that's been that's the biggest challenge for us, is kind of trying to recreate those connections. And it's such an Irish thing, you know, to connect with people about a shared subject. And it's important to the Irish film industry to make sure that those Irish filmmakers are coming over to the UK and meeting with Irish with UK film industry people. It's you know, it's a part of that process, what festivals are for. So going forward, again, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen. We are preparing for both. So we are preparing for an in-person festival and an online version. Similar to other festivals, I think, who've gone online, we've realized there's so much value in an online environment, and we have access to a lot more people, and people around the world can take part. So we will continue that regardless. We will continue to have online content as part of our actual festival, which I think, similar to what Will and the guys at the FLA have done, will be in time slots, will be, you know, there'll be a premiere feeling about it. You will log in at a certain time, there'll be a live Q&A where you can interact, because we've seen there's just so much value in that. And then the trickier side of it is the in-person side, and there's so many questions still on that front. We're obviously in negotiations with our cinema and with our other venues to see what might be possible. You know, it's hugely limited, and we're looking at sort of a third, maybe even a quarter capacity. We don't have the same capacity to congregate in a bar, in the bar afterwards. So those kinds of things are out. So we're trying to redesign the way that an in-person event would work, and to make it a bit more exclusive, to make sure that it's very safe and that the people come and don't really think about that side of it so much, that they feel very safe and that it's something's very unique, so they feel treated. Because there's, you know, at festivals we have a lot of amazing supporters, and Susanna, you'll know this only too well, you'll have the same faces. You know, there's a bulk of people that come to every festival, so we want to treat them when they come back into the cinemas. So that's where we are.
Sorry, you mentioned there that your audience now is around the world. Are your presentations to date, have they been geo-blocked to the UK, or are they?
No.
Why didn't that?
So to date, everything has been completely open, no geo-blocking on our stuff. It is something, obviously, as we go into feature films and working more with the bigger films particularly, that is something that is really important. And the rights, you know, the UK and Irish rights, it's a very tricky subject. You can't necessarily separate those things as well. So that's a lot more complicated, and you know, there's a number of different softwares and companies who are supporting the way that can work, and I'm sure will probably talk us through a little bit more how he's worked with Festival Scope and is it Blink 72, that, you know, that there was it called?
Shift
72.
Shift 72, that's the one. Yeah, so we'll be looking at ways to do that so that we can do more kind of premiere and debut stuff.
Yeah. Okay, Kelly, thanks. So I might draw in Donald there, because I know the possibilities when we're bringing material online and you're kind of transcending geographic boundaries and so on. I was chatting to Donald earlier in the week, and Donald was talking about filmmakers and their main imperative is getting their work seen. Donald, can you talk about, well, firstly, your experience with Culture Ireland festivals to date, so the kind of Irish cultural festivals and the proliferation of your work through this cultural network, and what it has meant to you as a filmmaker.
Yeah, thanks, Suneva. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, it's been a wonderful run. We launched in March 2018, and it's still going. So 2 years of life on the international circuit is a pretty amazing thing. It's called the Camino Voyage, and it's on its own voyage at this stage. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm so grateful to, you know, the IFI International program for bringing it to so many places. And you know, as a filmmaker, you make work to be seen, You know, that's really the key thing. So getting it to be seen in so many places is really a very rewarding experience. And then also getting to go and experience it with audiences. I say this to musician friends all the time, that as a filmmaker, I'm always envious of musicians because they get to experience their work with an audience. And with filmmakers, quite often it's really just on the festival circuit where you get a chance to experience the film with an audience. So and the energy of that can't be discounted. It's such an amazing thing. I'm still thinking back to screenings that we had at the IFI with you, Will, in Galway, and in so many different places, and just the energy in the room. Quite often, you know, I wake up some mornings and I question quite often what I do because it's such a struggle on so many fronts. And then the energy from that really carries you in so many different ways. So so I'm very grateful for that energy that comes from the actual screening. And then also there's great insights that come from screening it at different places at different times. I remember chatting with Anna, who from the Irish Festival in Russia, who I know is online there. And she shared with me that when she saw the film, she said that it changed her idea of what success meant. And we've gotten so much feedback from so many different places, so different times, but I had never heard that particular feedback. So it's amazing how it resonates in so many different ways with so many different cultures. So yeah, so I can't overestimate the benefits and the wonder that comes from getting the film seen in so many places over such a long period of time.
Donald, could you distinguish, you know, do you have a sense of how the film traveled so fluidly and so well within a cultural network where it might, I mean, it didn't have the same kind of commercial life? And, you know, is this channel particularly useful for smaller independent cultural films?
Yes, it is, absolutely. I mean, I lived in New York City for many years. I worked as a programmer and a curator there, and you know, there were 4 cinemas there that I would always go to see films there. They weren't commercial cinemas; they were art house cinemas, and I knew that whatever film I would see there, it would be the kind of film that I would want to see. So in a way, the international circuit is a version of that. You know, people, as Susanna and Kelly were saying, you know, the same faces come back because they know the kind of work that they want to see. So it's wonderful that a network is there, because I think maybe one of the big challenges of the proliferation of online stuff is the lack of curation. You know, we have Netflix in this house, and my wife and I, we spend about an hour negotiating what we're going to see every night, and we end up not watching anything. You know, whereas if I go on the Galway Film Flab site at the moment, it's amazing what you did, Will, in terms of manifesting that online. I know how much work that must have taken, but at least it's curated by someone that you trust, so that then you can go there and decide to watch something, as opposed to, you know, being overwhelmed by the amount of choices and ending up not watching something, or watching something that you would prefer not watched in the first place. You know? So I can't overemphasize the importance of the role of curators in terms of bringing our work to audiences. It's so critical.
Great, thanks very much, Donald. So Will, I might draw you in there, and congratulations on the festival. It's so powerful. I'm finding all of my hours being whiled away watching work, and certainly the manner that it is trickled out. I mean, it's working. I find it's working really well, and the duration of the windows and so on. So did you mirror that practice on other festivals, Will, or is this, you know, is this a template that you've established for the FLA this year? And, you know, what differences are there in terms of the size of the program and so on to a live presentation?
Well, thanks for your kind words, everybody, first off. We had managed to learn from some of the earlier festivals. Like, I think we all have to praise CPH Docs so much for sort of blazing the trail on this. That Festival Scope Shift 72 partnership was kind of born out of helping them to transfer their program online. But the structure of the festival, we kind of built that ourselves. The idea of building in premiere times to try and have that collective watching experience. I think other festivals have done it since as well, but we probably all arrived at the idea at a similar kind of stage, whereas the earlier festivals that sort of kicked this off in the beginning kind of put everything online at once, and we kind of looked at it and thought, well, maybe we'll try something different. The program is about 40% the size that a regular film flat program would be. Like for the past 2 years, we've had about 100 features, and this year we have 39. But if anyone is thinking about going digital, I think you have to slim down. Smaller is definitely the way to go. I think we've definitely learned that much in terms of just focusing audience attention and not splitting your audience online. So yeah, does that answer?
No, that's great. And was there ever any temptation to put anything live, or were you needing to organize at a stage where there was, that just wouldn't have been feasible?
Which elements live, sorry?
So to do any kind of cinema presentation. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Oh, yes. So yeah, not really. A socially distant FLA wouldn't be a FLA. We weren't really interested in that, and we knew, looking back to March and April when we were planning this, even if we postponed to August or even September, we'd probably be looking at social distancing still being in place.
Yeah.
So we definitely didn't want to do that, but we did want to do something. We felt like preserving the continuity of the festival circuit was important, and that it was important to help, smaller films and independent films and Irish films get out there as well, because everything had just stopped. Things are slowly starting to open back up now, but if you think back to then, we were also sort of hopeless and despairing of what was happening. And it has been great to see for the past week, even though we can't be physically together, like talking to filmmakers, just getting to put their film in front of an audience, it's still so exciting for some directors who've been sitting on their films now for months longer than they had planned.
Yeah.
The online seemed like the best option to bring people together, albeit not physically, and sort of preserve that continuity.
Yeah. And do you have a sense yet of the levels of engagement with the live elements, the Q&A and so on? Are people sticking with the presentation for the Q&As?
Yeah, for the most part, I think there has been, communication issues. Not everyone was always aware that you sort of have to, come off of our website or come off of this, we'll say the Shift 72 streaming site to look onto Facebook or to our website where the Q&As are. But yeah, in general, and as the week has gone on, more and more people are starting to get with the flow, and we see more and more questions coming in through the social media channels, which is great to see. I think, if we were running for like 2 weeks, then we'd have like it down, and it would be a smoothly operating audience and festival machine. But, such is life. We're ironing out the kinks along the way.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job. So thanks for having us, Will. And certainly, Will, thanks for having the international programmers. And I know that the access for international viewers has been particularly specially facilitated. So thank you very much on behalf of everyone here in the room for that. Barry, welcome back. Barry is sitting in a car in Penzance. He's taking time out of his holidays, so we're very grateful, Barry. Thank you very much indeed. You will all recognise Barry. You know well who he is. We've enjoyed his work in Jimmy's Hall and Extraordinary and Maze and Dating Amber, and certainly Barry has travelled with the work. And can I just chat to you about that, Barry, about the value of having an actor come and champion the work, and the particular thrill it is for audiences to meet you after a screening, and your experience particularly with the cultural circuit. I know you've been to a couple of the cultural festivals, so can you talk us through your experience?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a great chance to see the world and meet fellow filmmakers. Some of whom I wouldn't know, others are more familiar faces, but it's always great to catch up and discuss our common enthusiasm for all things film. also then I guess to meet new and up and coming directors from the Irish world of film, as I've been living in London for 15 years now, so I wouldn't know a lot of the younger filmmakers in Ireland, so it's always great to see what kind of work is coming out of there. But the biggest thrill for me, really, besides fulfilling the role of talking about the movie and answering what tend to be more I don't know, depending on the film, either political or technical questions to do with the making of the movie, rather than about acting itself, which suits me down to the ground. But what interests me most about these trips is kind of just getting to discuss these films with the audience members and to get their take on it. And the further flung the festival, the more interesting, because they're so far removed from our own kind of sensibilities. So last year I was a jury member at an Odessan film festival in Ukraine, which was just fascinating. And obviously it was an international festival, so the Irish movies made up, probably 1%. And it's just such a learning curve to talk about films with people whose for whom they speak a different language in terms of their understanding of cinema and what they've been exposed to growing up. But it's amazing to find the commonality in it all, and then I was in Russia in March when all this kicked off for the 13th festival there, for the Moscow Irish Film Festival. And they have a massive cinema, the main theatre. I think there may be close to 1,000, if not more, audience members.
1,500.
1,500. There you go. Thank you. You get a lot of film students, and I find, in particular, the Russian audience is extremely cine literate, and you get the most wonderful insights and questions. And to see a bunch of Irish movies play to that kind of audience, you begin to see anew your own country and its filmic outputs. It's just a brilliant shift in perspective and always a massive learning curve.
There's something particularly potent about a full Irish Film Festival, and you can imagine that the various aspects of that this might be some people's only exposure to Ireland and Irish culture, and there's a great privilege to being involved in presenting that kind of kaleidoscope.
That's absolutely true. And might I add, on the other end of the scale, I find the organisers, Anna and Jerry in Moscow and Susanna in Rome, more often than not, they know more about Irish film than the Irish representing their movies there, which is endlessly fascinating for me. And I learned so much about Irish cinema from these people, from the organisers.
Yeah, and with Extraordinary, I mean, it's such good fun. I mean, it's a really fine film. Did you perceive any difference in people's response to the comedy in it? Or, I mean, I imagine Russian audiences have a very finely honed sense of humor. Or how did that go down? Yeah,
I was really curious about that with that movie, because there's so many kind of particular specific Irishisms within it. But, comedy, just like tragedy, travels far and wide, and people a lot of time will find the same things funny. What is interesting are those little differences in what gets bigger reactions. I believe the directors told me in Switzerland there was a particular cuckoo clock joke that went down a storm. in Russia, I was curious as to whether, because it was taking part in a kind of a horror themed festival, it was more, I guess, the supernatural element, the spooky, ghostly stuff. And I mean, Russian literature's littered with their own ghosts and ghouls. So they have a very keen sense of the supernatural, I think. So I, if I remember correctly, a lot of them picked up on that kind of stuff. Yeah. Well, please God, I mean, let's hope we can revisit that model in 2021 when we are actually back in cinemas, despite the success of the various digital efforts we've been making to, in many ways expand audiences through online platforms. Folks, I'm going to throw open to questions from our various participants. We have, let me see. I have a question from
Jeff Thompson. Jeff, who we all know from Luxembourg. Jeff has a question for Kieran. So Kieran, perhaps you could come back on screen. Jeff asks, what support can Culture Ireland give to festivals now that it's extremely unlikely that talent can now travel to festivals? So I guess the question is whether the support that traditionally is going towards travel, might it go somewhere else? Do you yet know, Kieran, what new models you may have?
We are actively looking at that. I mean, we can't at the moment issue any travel grants in line with the government advice against international travel. So if people have a particular proposal in relation to non-travel, I'll put my email in the chat and just mail me about that, and we'll see what we can do. It'll depend on timelines and our resources. I mean, we'd hope, like other people have said, that we will get back to a situation where travel will be part of what we do, but I'd say it won't be all of what we do from here on in. So, but if people have particular questions or a particular event that they're looking for support, because I know in one of the questions somebody was mentioning about promotion and things, we'd be happy to look at that, but people should mail me. That would be the quickest way to do that.
Okay, super. And Jerry in Russia has a similar question there. So if you do that, Jerry, if you can mail Kieran. Enda in Australia, Enda, thank you for staying up or getting up. I can't remember which way the clock is working. And I just see a little bit of your question here. You're looking for an online platform recommendation. I know we in IFI, so we're creating a digital platform as well. We're using Shift 72, as Will in the festival has. Will, do you have any comments on Shift 72?
Just to say that they're great. It's all been, I won't say it's been seamless, but like, I mean, workflow has been good. They have been very supportive, you know, together with Festival Scope. So yeah, I would highly recommend. Their platform is easy to use from a user, like a festival user experience as well, in terms of uploading your content and curating it. But just to note that, like, not Shift 72 specific, but it is extremely hard as well. Like, you think when you move online that, you know, oh, well, we don't have travel, you know, problems, or we don't have venue costs, or we don't have this, or we don't have that. But it's amazing how the costs and the logistics all add up. And if you're a small team as well, like I know most festivals are. So just to be aware of it, not to be negative, like, but just be aware. But Shift 72 have been amazing.
Yeah, and I know for us, one of the logistical problems with Shift 72 is they're in New Zealand, so there's always the time difference. But Enda, you won't have that problem. I presume you're right next door, so you but yeah, we found them to be very good as well. It's costly exercise, but hopefully worth it, you know, and certainly what we would be planning to do in the IFI, and not in festival context exclusively, would be to have kind of blended offers where we would be doing in theatre and online presentations. Now I think we have another question coming in. There's a bunch of people have been chatting in the chat room. If any of your chatting should be a question, lash it into the question box there. Interesting question from Dawn. Yeah, did Kelly and Will get any pushback from distributors when going to the online platform? So that's a question from Dawn Morrissey in Boston. Kelly, would you like to come back to us there?
So the main issue is security, obviously. You know, I think our initial thing was we can't compete with Amazon and those kind of access things, but actually the biggest issue is the security and geo-locking things. So distributors, yeah, it was just that we couldn't provide that for the festival that we ran in March, but we are hoping to be able to up the ante, and it is, as Will says, it's about finding the right model for you and the one that you can afford going forward. But yeah, definitely pushback. I mean, it's not something that they can allow. You need to be tooled up completely in order to do that. So yeah, most of our content, we weren't able to switch it just within that time frame anyway. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to do it now for December.
Will, did you have any pushback from distributors or filmmakers?
You know, the initial pushback was, yeah, kind of like Kelly talked about, like security. What's good now is that now that it's become more normalized, you know, Shift 72 again, for example, is now widely recognized as being very secure. They've even, you know, we just added this morning a presentation by Cartoon Saloon on Wolf Walkers as a work in progress. So even Apple has signed off on Shift 72 as being a secure platform, which is great. I think probably your pushback going forward, even if you have the right model, is probably just going to be about timing from now. Initially, when we proposed the idea of an online festival, we met with kind of, I won't say widespread resistance, but the resistance you would expect around security concerns and premiere concerns. Then kind of around April, May, it had kind of become the new normal, and suddenly everybody wanted to be involved. And again, we were having to, you know, the hard work of curation, because we couldn't include absolutely every film that we wanted to. And now that, you know, restrictions are easing and cinemas are reopening, probably the pushback you'll get is from distributors and sales agents being unsure about whether they want to go with the online model or if they want to hold out for a physical screening. And I think that's probably where you're going to get the most resistance now.
Yeah, we're all learning as we go, aren't we? And the landscape changes all the time. And we've a question in from Pat Riley asking, it's kind of $1 million question, about the relationship between popularity within the cultural distribution and within commercial distribution, and is there a correlation between the two? Would anyone like to take that? Or I mean, it is a big question, and quite often I think there may be different titles circulating in commercial networks to the cultural networks. But if nobody's got a smart,
Sorry.
Kelly, you will come up with something smart.
Yeah, no, sorry, I can jump in on that to some extent anyway. For us in the UK, you know, it's its own territory, so it's different to, you know, the whole of Europe, the whole of the US, etc. So popularity in our festival, it does, it can help to inform people, I think, a little bit like the Galway Film Fleadh. You know, if you get sales agents, distributors coming to Galway, you get a very warm response from the audience for the film, and you can really see what buttons it's going to push for people and how it's going to be enjoyed. So I think it is something that they do come and experience at a festival and understand. So they do, there does tend to be some pickup from it. But kind of going back to what Dawn was saying there, like there is a bit of pushback from distributors. It's about getting that balance right between a film not needing the cultural audience. So it's the line between it being too big to be kind of playing with the festivals. And it's really, I think that the success with film festivals like ourselves is getting that balance right and being able to force it forward to make a name for Irish film, like giving it that stamp, because there's certainly a huge audience there to support it once it has that stamp. I don't know if that answers the question properly.
Yeah, no, that's, I think there's more questions, and I think we're all kind of very keen to learn about digital offers, digital festivals, how they might work. But I think we're kind of running out of time, and certainly our experience in IFI when we're looking at our Doc Fest in later September and so on, really, you know, what might be true for us today in terms of our conversations with distributors might change tomorrow. So, you know, as people are becoming more familiar with the territory, discussions about rights and so on, and box office splits changes all the time. So, you know, if anybody who's out there who's, you know, thinking of moving to a digital platform, I guess any of us would be happy to take emails from them and you know, to talk through our experience. Barry, I know you were due to be going to Italy before Susanna had to close down. I'd say that was a blow, but perhaps the invitation will hold.
Yeah, I hope so. Fingers crossed, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Ray might shout at us. We're just kind of coming to the end of the session. I'll see if we just have time.
So Eva,
Donald, would you just, yeah.
Could I add something just while we have international programmers on the line? I think one of the big elephants in the room with this whole online experience is climate change, the climate crisis. I know that personally, I really resisted online interactions like this for so long because I would much prefer to be in person. But over the last 4 months, I've attended so many online forums and stuff that you know, it's kind of changed my mind about it a little bit in terms of its value and what it can bring to experiences. And it reminds me of what the Icelandic writer Andrés Snar Magnusson said about how I think 2020 will be the year that we actually discover the internet, you know, in terms of its use, you know, because it's this whole time will definitely transform things as we go ahead. And I know with my own experience with international festivals, I've kind of made a private vow, and I don't want to make it too public because I'll be held to it, and it'll be hard to hold to it, but I've made a private vow not to do international flying, or to do as little as I can. And I actually turned down 2 really attractive offers to festivals because I couldn't justify the air miles to go to them. So maybe I would just maybe throw it out in terms of international programming, that we might start to look at carbon offsets for people looking to attend festivals. Maybe there are creative ways to, you know, partner with organizations that are having carbon offset situations, because I know personally that in the future, I really have to weigh up whether it's worth flying to things, even though I mean, I absolutely love attending international film festivals, but with this whole movement online and this balance of trying to figure things out, it's going to be a big factor. It's going to change things. It's already changed things. So I think it's something very important to consider.
If I could just come in there.
Forward.
Thanks, Donald. Yes, Kieran?
I mean, it's not unrelated, I suppose, to ourselves. I mean, we had started, but at a very small level, considering our position in terms of supporting international travel and the attendant concerns around climate change. So, I mean, it's definitely sped up that process for us in terms of how some of our support might be much more strategically placed, and indeed looking at as a priority, looking at carbon offsets in terms of what we do as a kind of first base. But definitely, just to echo what Donald says, it's another reason, and not just the pandemic, but like that creeping sense around international travel and the responsibilities we take in supporting that. It's something we're definitely looking at.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
If I just again to on Donald's point there, I think probably naturally, like for ourselves for the festival in November, December, we naturally, because we don't exactly know what's going to happen, we are going to start looking at more locally based Irish filmmakers, because it's safer for us, because if there's more travel restrictions internationally, we will be looking to, and you know, there are plenty of Irish filmmakers in London, which is wonderful. So I think it'll probably naturally happen anyway, and then, as you say, the benefits will be seen more on that front, and that can become part of that conversation then about climate change.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm afraid, guys, we are about to be shut down. You all know the wonderful Facebook group that Eleanor administers, where we can all chat and share our thoughts about the films we've been watching and this session and so on. I'd like to thank you all very much. Again, we're probably tip of the iceberg. You know, we're all learning an awful lot about this new reality, but it's good to know we've got friends out there and we can support each other, and we can help each other navigate our way through these curious times. So thank you all again. Thank you, Culture Ireland. Thank you, the FLA, for having us. And we look forward to seeing you in the flesh, I hope, this time next year. Thank you all. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Donald.
Thank you.
Kelly, Susanna, Eleanor. Thank you all. Bye-bye.